How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today I have an exciting one for you guys today. But before we start, if you guys could like the video or subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. Getting to 1,000 subscribers is a goal of mine, and any support is much appreciated. Anyways, with all those disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into it. I've been so excited to finally get to this point of talking about the Portland Trailblazers and their future coming into the next season. Getting right into this, when it comes to the Trailblazers, I feel like I automatically have to start with Damian Lillard because he's just insane. Just talking about Damian Lillard, what is there not to like about Damian Lillard? I mean, in my opinion, he's definitely a top 5 point guard in the league. He's pretty much the second best point guard, in my opinion, right behind Steph Curry. Like, if Steph Curry was not in the league, I believe Damian Lillard would be the best point guard in the league, no doubt. I mean, Damian Lillard has meant so much to the Trailblazers. It's insane. Like, Damian Lillard pretty much can do anything and everything on the floor. He's just amazing. He can even shoot way behind the three-point line. He's just so effective. Obviously, the defense isn't always there, obviously. But, I mean, his offense is just so amazing and just so dynamic. He's just an amazing point guard. And I love everything about Damian Lillard. Honestly, I fully believe in this video and everything in my opinion that Damian Lillard, honestly, for the Trailblazers, he even came out and said that he wants to stay with the Trailblazers for the rest of his career. He loves the Trailblazers and he wants to build something here. And I find that really awesome and very humble of him. And I hope the Blazers do keep him. I honestly believe the Blazers should build around Damian Lillard for his whole career, and I believe they can pull it off. In my opinion, Damian Lillard is a #1 player, which is debatable among a lot of people, but I'm just pretty much ranting on at this point about him. I think we all know Damian Lillard and just how good he is, honestly. But as I said, I believe he's a #1 guy, and that the Blazers need to build around him. And I think that brings me into the rest of the team. And what better yet to start for the rest of the team than CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum is a great scorer. You know, he plays shooting guard. He's a little undersized at his position, but he's a good scorer. You know, he can shoot the three, shoot mid. He's a good finisher. You know, he does his thing out there. Personally, I don't believe he's a #2 guy, though. But that's just my opinion. Just looking at how he plays, you know, he has a lot of off games, but he also has a lot of games where he just kills people. But just looking at him, he reminds me a lot of Chris Middleton, and Chris Middleton reminds me a lot of CJ McCollum. And I personally believe like CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton are both not even #2 guys. They're more #3 guys, in my opinion, to a championship level team. And if the Blazers are going to get to that point of championship and contending, I think the Blazers need to invest themselves in more of a secondary guy, and I just don't think CJ's more of that guy because he just doesn't bring perimeter defense. I do wish this team had better perimeter defenders, honestly. I mean, they could use Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum and just build around them and put a lot of 3-and-D guys around them or a lot of defenders, but I just don't believe CJ's gonna help out Lillard that much when it comes to the second option. But I mean, that doesn't take away from what CJ has done. He's an amazing player, no doubt. And hopefully, you know, the Blazers keep him on the team. And I don't know, maybe we'll see. But that even leads me into Carmelo Anthony. I think his days are past him. I don't even think he can be a #2 or #3 option on any team. Maybe more of a 4 or 5 guy on a team. But Carmelo Anthony, I mean, he's done good this season. I mean, when he came back, I was very surprised. I thought he was kind of washed by now, but he did good, honestly. You know, it was a bad opinion of mine for thinking that he was washed by this point, or he was going to be bad. You know, he did his thing. Surprisingly, he had a lot of good catch and shoots. I was very surprised. I was very proud of him, too. I really thought Carmelo could, like, be really good off ball, and he's really shown that. He has a really good percentage in catch and shoot, and he's just been a really good shooter for them. But he's definitely not the same Carmelo Anthony as we used to know as being one of the best scorers in the NBA. But he's really been able to change his game, and I'm really, really surprised about that. His defense has been subpar. He's had moments of great defense, but it's just subpar. He's just a great scorer to have. I think he'd be better suited just coming off the bench and not starting, but obviously he had to start for the team because the Blazers just weren't having as good of scoring in the season. I mean, when you look back before they started Carmelo Anthony, their scoring was just terrible. They were losing games by like 20 or 30 points, and when they finally put Carmelo in, I mean, they were still losing, but only by like 10. But I do believe he's a great addition, and I hope they are able to maybe push him more towards the bench, and I think Carmelo would be really cool with that. I mean, he was on the bench beforehand, so I don't think he would mind doing that and coming off the bench. I really hope to see him average around like 16 off the bench. That'd be really awesome if he could, but I think they should keep him, in my opinion, and just be able to have that scoring punch, no doubt, off the bench if they can. Moving into Zach Collins, I've actually always liked Zach Collins going into the draft he came out of. I believe the draft he came out of was 2018, I think, or 2017. I think it was 2018. I actually really like Zach Collins. The biggest thing I've always loved about him was his potential to be a stretch big, and I think he came out this year showing that he can be more of a stretch big. And I hope he can get better defense. I think if he became more consistent on defensive end and is able to knock down his three more, I think he could be really valuable towards his team because he can stretch out to center. I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but I feel like if he's able to just have the potential to become even better, just get better at defense, get a little bit bigger, and be able to be consistent with that three-pointer, I feel like he could be a really good addition to this team and actually be very favorable on this team, be very valuable. I think he's the type of player that the Trailblazers need. But yeah, he can play power forward or center. I wouldn't mind seeing him at power forward if he has to, or center. But depending on the future, I think Zach Collins will be on this team later down the line. If I were the Blazers, I would keep him, honestly, and just see where he goes. Going to Hassan Whiteside, he's Hassan Whiteside. He gets his rebounds. He plays okay defense. I don't think his defense is as good as he used to, but I mean, he's just I don't want to say stat patter, but he gets the stats. He puts in his rebound. He puts in the work that needs to be done. I mean, the way that the Blazers got him, they got what they needed. Obviously, when they got Hassan Whiteside, I'm pretty sure they knew what they were getting, and not really good offense, but getting rebounds and being able to post up and be able to box out when needed. I mean, there's not really much to get into Hassan Whiteside. I think we all know what type of player he really is. I mean, he did his thing. He did better this season than last season, no doubt. They might keep him. I think it just depends how Zach Collins comes out. If Zach Collins is more of a center, though, I think they could get rid of Hassan Whiteside. I think it just depends on how the rotations go. But Hassan Whiteside, I mean, I could see them running more of a Zach Collins at power forward and Hassan Whiteside at center. It just depends on, I think, their rebounding, essentially. I think that can even get me to Nazir Little a little bit, because if they ran Nazir Little at power forward, they could do that and then run, like, Zach Collins as center in the future. I think it just depends on their defense and rebounding, honestly. When it's keeping, like, Hassan Whiteside. I know Zach Collins and Hassan Whiteside. Zach Collins could probably get you some more value if you wanted to trade him later down the line. I hope the Trailblazers don't do that, but I bet he can get some pretty good value. Whiteside, his value, I would say, is probably not that good. You could probably get like a second-round pick out of him, but nothing crazy. Maybe a late first-rounder, but I doubt it. But they could move on with Hassan Whiteside in the future. I could see it possibly. Which could also lead me to Yusuf Nurkic. Sadly, he was injured for the whole season, which sucks because he was the better center in my opinion. And honestly, it was one of the reasons why they picked up Whiteside, was because they lost Nurkic. Nurkic is a good center. He's subpar, below all-star. But he's a good center, no doubt. His defense isn't the best, but I mean, he gets it done. He gets rebounds. His post game's great. He's good at offense. He was definitely a loss for the Blazers. I do believe if they did have Nurkic, I think they might have done better and could have made the playoffs possibly, because he was kind of a big loss. He was usually the third best player on this team most of the time, so hopefully when he returns, I hope the Blazers can be better with him. Depending on his future, I think it depends on how much the injury affects him. If the injury affects him negatively, like really bad, obviously they're probably going to get rid of him, but I can see them keeping him long term. I think it just depends. For Nurkic or Whiteside, I think they'll have to trade one of them sooner or later, get rid of them sooner or later, honestly. I don't think keeping both of those types of centers is going to be needed. None of them can shoot the three, so I can see them getting rid of one of them, no doubt. Going to younger players, the younger player that always stands out to me is Anthony Simmons. You could say he kind of had a breakout year this season. He balled out this season. Like, if you ever look up like highlights about him, or ever just like looking him up and just see him play, he's showed flashes of the player that a lot of people thought he could be coming out of the draft. Coming out of the draft, a couple people actually thought he was a steal when the Blazers picked him up late in the draft. They believe he could have been more like another CJ McCollum, which would be pretty interesting, because if he could become like CJ McCollum, because he's more of an undersized guard as well, he's like 6'3", he can, I believe he's 6'3", he can kind of play point guard, but he's more of like a shooting guard, because he's just not that big of a playmaker. I feel like he's more of a shot creator than a playmaker. But yeah, he's more like a CJ McCollum, which is really weird, but it makes it very interesting, because if he becomes good, that kind of brings up discussion on trading CJ, which would be very interesting. But I would say, honestly, watch out for him. In the future, that could be in the talks, and I think that'd just be really interesting. Nazir Little, I've always had high hopes on Nazir Little. Nazir Little is amazing, guys. Listen, this man has a lot of potential. I know he didn't play a lot, but he did start finding more minutes on the team later down the season. Funny thing is, back in high school, he actually used to be nicknamed the Zion Stopper, which is crazy. He's honestly has a lot of potential. I know it doesn't seem like it, but if you just watch him, he's just good. I don't know how to explain it. His defense is great. I think he can become a really good 3-and-D guy. I don't think he'll ever become a star, but he reminds me of like, and I don't want to say like Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler is a star, and I don't want to say like Nazir Little is going to be a star, but he reminds me of like a younger Jimmy Butler, but he's like bigger and longer, and just he's a great defender, man. He's great. That's all I have to say. I think you guys should take some interest in actually looking him up and see how he is. But he's a good player, man. Like, I think he'll be really good for the Blazers team down the run. I do believe he needs to get better in his three-point shooting, though, no doubt. He's pretty much struggled with the three-point pretty much his whole career as a basketball player. But I always believed if he could ever get a three-point shot, he could become a great rotational player or a great starter, no doubt, for any NBA team. Going to Ronnie Hood and Mario Hezonja, I always found Ronnie Hood interesting and Mario Hezonja interesting. I don't believe they're going to be on the team in the next 2 years, I gotta be honest. This team has always struggled in the small forward department, and I just don't see them keeping them for too long. They don't bring too much production. I mean, they're decent. Ronnie Hood's obviously better, but I mean, they're just decent. They're not really anything crazy. I mean, they're just there to really fill up the spots. I could maybe see them keeping Ronnie Hood, not really Mario Hezonja. If they want to build more around like Damian Lillard and get more 3-and-D players out there, I don't think they're going to keep Mario Hezonja. They'll be more interested to keep Ronnie Hood. But I mean, Ronnie Hood, he's up and down like a lot of times. Like, after he just moved from the Jazz, he's always been like up and down. He has good games and bad games. He's pretty inconsistent, and he's been pretty inconsistent most of his career. But maybe he could become more consistent later down the line, who knows, but I just can't see them holding on to any of these players that much longer. Moses Brown is another young player I've liked out of college too. I mean, down the line, he could become a good backup center, I believe. I mean, he's pretty long. He's a good rebounder. He could become a good defender. But there's not much to say. He didn't really play a lot this season. But I could see him down the road becoming a good backup center. Maybe a starter, who knows. But I think he'll become more of a good rotational backup center in the future. Who knows? Maybe the Blazers might hold on to him or not. But I mean, that's up to them. I have no clue. He hasn't really played that much. He's more of a, he has potential, obviously, just like Nazir a little, but he needs a lot of coaching and just getting better at the game, obviously. Terry Stotts, their head coach. I've actually always liked Terry Stotts. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's honestly been a blessing in disguise for the Trailblazers. I think he's been a really good head coach for the Blazers, honestly, in my opinion. And I think he's one of the reasons why Damian Lillard has become as dominant as he has. I know some people have some beef against Terry Stotts, but honestly, I believe Terry Stotts is a good head coach. I think he's done great for this organization. Just being able to build around a team around Damian Lillard, and there's a lot of key components when it comes to having a star player like Lillard, and Terry Stotts being able to put in a system built around Lillard and being able to give him the success that he can with the players he has around him is just, I mean, he's not like a crazy good coach, but he's a decent coach. He's great for Damian Lillard, and I do think they should keep him. I don't see anything wrong with him. It would be interesting to see your guys' opinions on that, though. I don't know too much on Terry Stotts, but I know a little bit on him. When I watch him, I usually don't see anything wrong with him. He seems like he has really good chemistry with a lot of these players. The players seem to like him, so there's that for him. I have to say, man, I believe Damian Lillard is the number one guy, though. I think the Blazers should build around him and try to win, but I also believe they need a second option. I think CJ is more of a number 3 guy. I think Lillard needs a better number 2 guy next to him. Don't get me wrong, again, CJ is amazing and no disrespect to him, but he's more of a number 3 guy to me, and I feel like if they could get another star next to Damian, they would be better. Not only that, but get more of a 3-and-D guys around him. I think we can all agree the small forward position has played this team for years. Pretty much, I think if the Blazers built around Lillard with 3-and-D guys and got a number 2 star kind of guy, they would be more contenders. Obviously, the Blazers were a bit plagued with injuries, but they should invest in seeing the options. I just hope that they retool and build around Lillard instead of rebuilding and getting rid of Lillard. I know that's been a big discussion lately. If you guys have any opinions of your own, please go ahead and comment below. I'm really interested in what you guys think about all this. I think it's just interesting with all the trade talks and stuff, like people saying they might ship Lillard, but Lillard has come out and said how much he loves this team, and I just hope they keep him and build around him. I believe in Lillard, and I believe in the team, and I just believe if they, pulled in the right options that they could succeed. But with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I hope you guys all have a nice day. Stay safe. Peace.